better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
All right, welcome in. Hope you're having a great Monday. That was Jim Shady there at the beginning. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan head coach, on his daughter's TikTok overseas with a little M&M. There he is, Jim Shady. And in overseas and international, a theme of today's show as we welcome in Zach Libby, Maize and Blue Review recruiting editor, who's on the line. Zach, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you as always. Feels like every time we talk, there's something that happens immediately afterwards. And, you know, these last 2 weeks since we last talked, there's been about 6 commitments. So perfect time to get on the horn with you.
Yeah, recruiting's been hot. You go back all the way to July 1st. There was 2 on July 1st. And then if I was counting them up, which I just did, and I double checked, so I'm pretty confident in saying 4 recruits over the past 10 days, if we include number 13, Mr. Beigel from Germany.
Yeah, all of them, in the 23 class, they're all except one, they're all 4-star prospects. You know, Michigan's back in the top 50, not obviously what they want at the end, but it's still better than being number 58. So slowly but surely, we're getting back to the point where this recruiting class reflects the success that they had last season. So wait and see.
Well, we're going to talk about all that today. If Michigan is going to go back overseas, if they're done there, and what's next. But we'll start with the pair of commitments. But before I even do that, you mentioned it, the team rankings, and it wasn't so long ago that Michigan was at 50. Now, they're not inside the top 10. You see Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas, little jostling back and forth. There's SEC media days. I saw that Brian Kelly was asked about LSU's collective not being as loaded as some of the other ones, which I thought was pretty interesting. Let's see, not into the top 25 either. There's Michigan State and Purdue at 23 and 24. Minnesota, Nebraska out of the Big Ten at 27, 28. But you don't have to. You start thinking about it, and Zach, there they are, 36. But this does not reflect the latest commitment. Is that correct?
It does. It's just his star profile hasn't been updated, so he's just not included on the list. So being that there's 8 4-star, 2 3-star, the remaining 2 are the kicker Adam Saman, the guy who we'll be talking about next. But who will we be talking about? Don't be surprised if he does get that 3-star rating anytime now. So that's just based on what I've been told. So I don't expect his 0-star rating to last much longer.
If you're out there and you want to leave a message wherever you're watching or listening, that is available to you. We get those questions up to you right away. And let's see, even on Clubhouse, checking it out, we've got a few people that are already weighing in. I'm looking for anybody. I thought somebody had their hand raised and we're ready to come on and ask you a question. So that's available for you as well. All right. This was on Saturday. Americ Koumba. He is 6'4", 230 out of the Touraine, which is Paris, France. So he's Michigan has had a Canadian, a French-Canadian connection. I can remember Dayton Dubuc and Alain Kashama back around the turn of the century. But now right from the heart of France and Paris, Americ Koumba. What do you know about this guy?
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess we got to go back to how this all started. Americ, he is a rising junior. He is a part of PPI Recruits. PPI Recruits is basically an international recruiting service that helps out high schoolers in Europe especially, but also Africa, parts of Australia, to get that national exposure that they may not have, being that they are overseas in order to live out their dream of playing college football. The organization is run by Brandon Collier. He is a former Canadian Football League defensive lineman. He's not actually born in Germany, but he lives in Germany right now and runs his academy. He's actually born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, but it actually started, the organization started in 2016, which was the same year that one of his players got noticed by Michigan. And that's really how the relationship took off. Back in 2016, that's when Harbaugh took his players out to Italy to see the Pope. That's when Collier decided to fly out with one of his players, Julius Welschoff, to meet with Don Brown. And that's where they got introduced to each other and, ultimately led to Julius signing with Michigan. But that's how it really got started with the connection between PPI and Michigan, was because of Don Brown and his interest in the German defense edge rusher. And then it's been a few years in between then and now, since Michigan was was decided to offer kids from PBI recruits. But that all changed with Elston coming on board, because Mike has a really strong connection with Brandon. There was a lot of targets that Elston was going after during his time at Notre Dame. A name, for example, is Hiro Kenu, the 2022 Rivals 250 defensive lineman who ended up signing with Ohio State. But that connection continued when Elston went over to Michigan. It all transpired this June when Collier decided to take his guys internationally to the United States for the June camp circuit hosted by, a bunch of team-hosted showcases by the universities, and one of them was Michigan. And that led to Elston really catching eyes on Americ, and Elston was also able to go outside of, go across country, the TCU mega camp, I think the Mercer camp as well. So he's been able to scout him quite a bit, leading to that offer. And then ultimately, less than a month later, Koumba commits. So it just, he commits with just two offers. Sorry. He commits with Georgia Tech, Colorado, Connecticut, Buffalo. I'm missing one, but Michigan was obviously the biggest offer that he had. And then ultimately, the constant communication with Elston and Koumba just really showing loyalty to the guy who, gave him that opportunity, that first big time opportunity. Hence why we get a commitment in the middle half of July. Anything about, there's a lot of, I guess, unknown with Koumba. Not unknown, but there's a lot of, I guess I can say there's unknown because there's little film available on him. He is overseas, despite his frame at 6'4" and 230, with a 7'2" wingspan. There isn't much film available given that he does play overseas. The competition isn't as good, clearly, than the United States, but I've talked to Collier before about Koumba, and he believes that he can fit that stand-up edge role, much like David and Aiden last season. It's a position that's very good for him based on his frame and his athletic ability, speed, and power. You can go down on Twitter and see videos of Koumba working out in front of these coaches, so you're able to get a quick glimpse of what he can provide. But we'll see more in the next 2 years if he's able to get more film out. But this is a kid, despite being a 0-star, that if he was in America right now, we'd be talking about at least a low 4-star prospect. I've fully agreed with Collier's statement that international kids just don't get the praise that kids in the United States do just because of their proximity. It's his measurables and productivity that Koumba is able to display in France. It's much like kids that are 4-star prospects here. But yeah, he has a really good relationship with Coach Elston, who, like I said, flew out to see him at more than one camp. They were in a good position right when they offered. You can call it a surprise that they were able to land him and lock him up this early, but it just goes to show the work that Elston was able to do, and his what's the word? His ability to find prospects, in areas that may not be scouted as heavily as others. So very, very interesting and intriguing pickup. Very raw, but with development under Elston in the next level, we could see the next great pass rusher to come out of the system.
Yeah, here's some of the feedback. Yakov saying it might be a good move. However, he'd be shocked if he played a competitive down till at least 2025. I did see a comparison on Maize and Blue review, and it was a favorable comparison to David Ajabo, who redshirted, and then you didn't see much of him as a freshman. And of course, last year he just blew up. So, that's when you see and hear that comparison, you feel good. I wonder. I first wondered a couple of years ago when Harbaugh was taking his players to Italy and taking them to France, like not a hotbed. I understood when he took them over like Samoa or whatever, because you see football players showing up from Samoa, but I don't know. I didn't know if you would have told me last week, do they play football in France? I would have said, you mean soccer? Like, I don't think they play American football. I didn't think they played it in Germany either. So, but here we are. So I'm learning a little bit as we go. And I do wonder if, Harbaugh was thinking about exposing Michigan on the continent over there in Europe back when he was taking his guys, more than just taking them around and, showing them the world. If he had, another motive there as well, picking up players potentially down the line. And, here he is picking up 2 this week. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can extend your brand overseas, and you have the money to do so, why not? I don't think when Harbaugh set out to go meet the Pope or, I don't know, go see the Eiffel Tower, that he was looking for the next big, diamond in the rough. But obviously that's happened right now with this year. In terms of just, I guess, why I going back to that person's question and the unknown with overseas, there's a lot of, I guess, untapped potential in Europe, particularly. I'm just going to go back on a quote that Brandon Collier told me. In Germany, there's about 50 million people living there in that country alone. If you put into that perspective, there's about 300 American football clubs out there. So there's talent out there. There you got guys with size, hence Americ with his 6'4", 6'5" frame. You got footwork from all their years playing soccer, and just the flexibility that allows edge rushers in particular to have that edge. No pun intended, but there's a lot of things that just make European kids unique out there. Obviously, their intelligence. They some of them can speak 2 to 3 languages. Their motivation and their hunger to continue their football career in America means going above and beyond the work that American kids might do because they have that crossroad. There's just the raw talent that hasn't been developed under, maybe an ideal strength and conditioning program that American high schools might have. But if you're able to see a kid like Americ who can run a 4.7 40, 122 broad jump, and with the 7'2" wingspan, that's just you got to take a chance, even if it's such a project that we don't see him on the field for 4 years. But coaches want, especially college football coaches, they want to teach and develop those kids who want to learn and want to get better. And though a good majority of them come from Europe because they want to live out their dream, and they'll do anything possible to do so. So I wouldn't say that college football is slowly turning into basketball, where international prospects are sort of like the standard, when it comes to recruiting. But we're getting to at least to a point where we're embracing going outside of our borders to find the next great player. Michigan's obviously done that over the years with David and Julius, Quiddy. That's just some of the examples. But again, if we're talking about Americ being from IMG Academy or St. Francis or Bishop Gorman, we'd be talking about someone who's in the Rivals 250, but the fact that he's from Paris says otherwise. So we'll know a lot more once he arrives on campus and gets in that strength and conditioning program and see that motivation that we're talking about to get to live out that dream.
Yeah, maybe it works. The one thing with Kwity Paye and David Ajabo, those guys had a route to Michigan, but those guys had come over and played some high school football. So you had them in America, and were you able to evaluate them there? It's kind of like what Collins Shumpong, who just committed recently as well. He's got a year or two of high school ball. So these guys are really unknown. Julius Welshoff is still on the Michigan team. And, you can see, I see some of the Michigan fans, wondering about, it's a big question mark. You even said 4 years down the line, you're taking a guy, can Michigan afford? I wonder if name, image, and likeness affected this, because one thing we have seen over the past year is that players, international players with visas cannot benefit mostly from name, image, and likeness. And as Michigan, getting international players where they don't have to pay any upfront money. Now, there have been a few in basketball. I don't know if there's anybody else in football. There have been a few in basketball. Tshebwe from Kentucky comes to mind, the player of the year last year. He is going to get a little name, image, and likeness money. But is it going to be down the line for these guys, even if they are able to? Not saying that it's a cost-cutting move or a financial move, but I do wonder if that came into play at all when you're talking about Michigan. Let's get some feedback for you here. What do you think? This one is, we got two from Antoine, who says Michigan should easily slip back into the top 10 when it's all over, unless they want to pack the roster out with lower tier players. Well, you want to take a shot at where you think Michigan might end up in the rankings? Antoine saying top 10. What about you?
I'll just say that if they don't end up in the top 25, it'll be a disappointment, but that's just obvious. There's so many players. I've done a couple articles talking about the best case scenario for both offense and defense when it comes to the 23 class. And there are quite a few more prospects that are uncommitted that are considering Michigan. I can go down the line of dropping names, but there's going back to what I said, Michigan needs to get back in that top 25 in order to have that respect, to have a respectable class. We're at the stage right now, hence the fact that they got 6 commits in that 23 class in the last month. But even I don't think if they end up in the top 25, Michigan fans won't be pleased. There's so much high expectations coming off that season that, Michigan needs to, build off that momentum. And we've talked about this so many times on this podcast that it's like, beating on a dead horse, but I don't want to say it's only July, but there is quite a few months left to get back into that ranking. We have the annual barbecue at the Big House that's less than 2 weeks away. That could lead to some noise. Fall official visits haven't even yet to commence, but I trust Michigan's process, even if they go after these low tier players. And I say low tier, I mean these 3 stars that might not have the ranking on Rivals that these others might have, but they want kids that fit their system and fit their culture. So like I said, I trust what they're evaluating and I trust who they're going after. And I firmly believe that the ones who do hold interest in Michigan aren't speaking, aren't lying. These kids truly have Michigan in their top 10, top 5, top 3. I can name one, for example, the Javian Toviano, the 5-star cornerback who took an official visit last month. He's still considering Michigan. He said that at the Under Armour All-American Future 50.
I like the way he tweets. He's always tweeting about Michigan.
Yeah, he has some cryptic tweets. He retweeted the announcement of Amir Herring when Dante Moore dropped his announcement. He tweeted, "You know where you're going." No, I think there's quite a few that are still considering and have yet to commit. And I hate to say the word wait because I feel like I've been doing that this whole year, but the results have already been seen this month with all these 4-stars coming in. There's still time. There's still time for us, for Michigan to get back into a ranking that, like I said, is a reflection of what they did last year.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's understandable how fans, after finishing in the top 10 last year and winning the Big Ten, thinking about, hey, maybe Michigan can get into the top 5. But it is still the great unknown. I don't know if it's great unknown. It's unknown about how Michigan is approaching name, image, and likeness and whether or not that is going to block them over the remaining months and certainly getting 5 stars or high 4 stars. And if they're going to be able to there has been some talk that there's going to be a shift in the fall about Michigan and that they're going to be coming out with, guns blazing, so to speak, in name, image, and likeness. And if they do that, well, then maybe they will be able to flip and flop a bunch of players out there that otherwise would not look at Michigan. But so that's just going to have to play out. We've heard about that. There's a chance that that's going to happen in the fall, but we'll wait and see. I do agree with you. They're outside the top 25. It's going to be a disappointing. I think if they're outside the top 15, if you tell me right now they end up 14, I'd say, oh, great. They took a wait and see approach and everybody else, flashing the money and Michigan saying, hey, we're still playing it the other way. That's way different than every other school. I haven't seen another school that's come out there and played we all know, a transformational over transactional card. So if it would, if they end up being in the top 15, while people aren't going to be happy about that, it's not too shabby. Now here's Antoine blaming the media in general because of the panic. But if you look at the rankings, most everybody that's ahead of Michigan are low 3-star recruits. It's still early. People need to relax. Yakov saying that he'd be far more impressed with Michigan getting a 4-star D lineman from Atlanta. And KC doesn't sound excited about the European players because they're not really known for being great football players. So what do you think, Zach?
Well, I guess the 4-star D lineman that one guy's talking about is Katy Mcdonald. Caden is expected to be at the barbecue, like I said, about the barbecue being a big stepping stone for good results in the fall. He's one that took an unofficial visit in June and has told us his intentions of going back for an official for the Hawaii game. He's their top nose on the board. Very, very athletic, very powerful. Comes from an area that has a hotbed of football in that suburban Atlanta area. So he's one to look out for. And I said could lead Michigan back into that top 25 ranking. In terms of, you can be excited or not excited about landing a commitment like this, but, I'm going to trust Elston in his evaluation of a player like Koumba. You may not be as happy of getting someone who's not a star ranking or doesn't come from America, but for an assistant like Elston, who's been doing this for such a long time, has been well regarded as one of the top recruiters among any football team since his tenures at Cincinnati and Notre Dame. He's a guy who wants length on his line and wants athletic guys. And I can go back to him, Koumba's having a 4'7" and a 7'2" wingspan. So, like I said, if you don't want to, if you don't believe in what Elson is doing, that's fine. But I will, because of his pedigree of years of doing this and being able to develop guys into NFL ready talents. So, regardless if he's from Paris, France, Tijuana, Mexico, or Orlando, Florida, he's going to find the guys that fit the system. So that's what he's going to do.
A 3-star out of Tijuana would be interesting. I go back and this is Michigan. I understand skepticism from fans. I can think about going back to it'd be the late 80s or early 90s when the Red Wings were, drafting European players, and there was the thought like, you're not going to win with Europeans. These guys wearing visors coming over here. They don't know what it means to win the Stanley Cup. They don't know what it means, to compete in the playoffs. And you had Don Cherry every Saturday night saying, hey, these guys don't understand, the true meaning of the game. They're not going to win anything. And of course now, that has proved to be ridiculous. And Yakov, I think, is making a point about if it was basketball. Let's see if I can get over there and put that one up. And I completely understand. Like if you're getting a bunch of European basketball players, it's like, yeah, you've seen that enough with their impact. Luka Doncic, you can go over and over again. But we have not seen that with football. But if you're saying, I don't know, not even fans. I hear a lot of media say, you really have to have that inside that, a lot of people like to call it a dog. You got to have that fight. The European players that are going to be coming over here, are they going to have that fight in them like American players? It sounds a heck of a lot like what Don Cherry was saying about guys wearing visors and what people were saying about Darko Milicic, back when the Pistons drafted him, did he have any heart and, steely-eyed, cut your, put his foot on your throat, all that kind of stuff. Maybe some of the same stuff here, in Michigan being one of the, being one of these teams first in on it. Maybe there's something, but I understand the skepticism having said all that.
I got three things. Outside of the topic, you're talking about the Red Wings and the Russians. I'm not a hockey fan, but I actually saw that ESPN 30 for 30 about Red Wings in Colorado. And unfortunately, I could not see myself in the video as a 1-year-old at the Washington Arena for the Stanley Cup in 1998 because I was there. But I guess with basketball, with having it being such a common norm, we can go back 30 years and we can talk about guys like Drazen Petrovic and the one guy from Portland. I forget his name off the top of my head, but Sabonis. Thank you. They had that, I guess, that journey into proving otherwise that European prospects can compete in America. We're at this point now where it's a norm to get guys from Eastern Europe. But with football, it's just not as common. So media, fans, anyone alike can prove can share their skeptics on it. But if I was in their shoes and I was a 16-year-old from Europe who wanted to go play college football in America and live out that dream, and I had an opportunity to do that in Michigan, I would have so much motivation and determination to prove to everyone that may not have rejoiced in my commitment that it would just lead to so much success just based on that work ethic. That's at least my prediction for guys like that they're going to come here, they're going to do the right thing, they're going to be successful off the field, they're going to walk away with a degree, they're going to prove these doubters wrong based on their, like I said, their intelligence and their athleticism that just isn't known because we don't have film, but it's there. And they're going to, if the ceiling is reached to get an All-American status, then that's what they're going to do. let's say this doesn't pan out and we never see Koumba on the field. At the very least, you get some guy who embraces the tradition and the culture at Michigan, who, like I said, wants to do something for himself as a human and graduate and lead a life as an adult because of what he was able to do at Michigan. And I think that's the kind of student athlete that fans and media would want at Michigan. So it's a win because we get more, because Michigan gets more guys for their 23 class. It will be a win if Elston is able to see his belief that was made in June come to fruition in a couple of years. And it's a win for the kid because he's able to, like I said, live his dreams. So it's just a feel-good story that could result in us talking about him becoming that All-American and being the next David Ojabo or the next Aiden Hutchinson or Kwity Paye. So, I understand the skeptics, but it's way too early to have doubts on what he can do, just based on him as a personality. So it's intriguing. It'll be intriguing to watch.
All right, before we move forward just a little bit, I'll read the rest of the feedback here. Yakov saying it would be more likely to find production with a high 3-star from Texas, Georgia, or Florida. Sorry if I'm sounding negative. If it were basketball, I would say otherwise. Antoine, Ojabo was a foreigner. It's about scouting people. People are so ignorant that they don't think outside the box. If you can start a pipeline for international players, why not? Yeah, there's just not the blueprint there. I think Antoine, that's right. Like, and Ojabo came over and played a little high school football. That's why when you're talking about Kwity Paye, and that's why you're talking about Collins Champong, who also went out to California and played a little bit of high school ball. A thing like if Julius Welshoff was an All-American right now, and you're saying, wow, the Wolverines are just ready to bring in the next Manuel Beigel, they're bringing in the next Welshoff, but Welshoff really hasn't contributed. Maybe he will this year, but that's the thing. And you're always looking for that success, and it's understandable. Otis asking if Michigan flipped 4-star recruits on signing day last year. Michigan has flipped recruits in the past. The unknown is going to be name, image, and likeness, and where Michigan's at with it. If they were right where they're at right now, where it appears that they're telling players to hang in there and wait a couple years, and if you're producing on the field and in the classroom, you're going to be rewarded. That's different than a lot of the other teams that are saying, hey, before you even throw a pass, we got a signing bonus for you. Unless Michigan changes that, I don't see a lot of flips coming Michigan's way, but that's just me. I don't know how you see that.
I mean, in terms of flipping, there's guys that are off the board like Dante Moore and others that Michigan still needs to pursue. It's not like at the end of July, at the middle half of July, we can say, oh, they're committed elsewhere. Let's move on. There's still time to, continue that relationship and hark on the fact that, they were one of the first to show interest. So why not continue? We can, in terms of what's on the board right now. I know we've talked about so much about Koumba, but there's another one that's about to join soon too. But this one has a little bit different of a trajectory once he comes into college. But we'll talk about that soon. But Manuel Beigel, 6'5", 285 pounds right now. Runs a 4.9 40. He's another out of PPI recruits that was able to get his name out there from grassroots approach based on his camp performances. I saw that he committed with just 2 offers, Michigan and Central Michigan. But according to his recruiter, Brandon, Florida, Ohio State, Alabama were some of the ones that were talking to him. Alabama especially showed major interest. His story is a little bit different in the sense that he is actually going to be playing high school football in America for the next 2 years. So he actually transferred to Connecticut this offseason, and he will be playing American football. I'm gonna look up his school right now, but his program that he's with, since dating back to 2014, his high school finished undefeated in 5 of those years, and that's not including the fact that 2020 Connecticut, dropped the football for high school. But no, we're going to see a lot of more film and a lot more exposure for Manuel because of his move to United States. I think that's perfect for his career. He's another one that Elston was able to see and find and able to lock in early. I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, we were talking about this before we started, but him committing the day after America is not a coincidence. I think his loyalty and Michigan being the first major school to show interest and actually pull the trigger meant for him to, sign with that team. We'll commit to the team that, wanted him first. He's one that I am looking forward to and watching his huddle in these next 2 years. He will be playing both offense and defense, but with Elston recruiting him, he's obviously going to play the defensive line. He is one that with his frame, I don't know. I can't predict the trajectory of where he's going to be in the line. Just depends on how much weight he drops or loses. But he's one that's, again, very athletic, has played soccer for 16 years, so his footwork is elite. His stamina from playing soccer is also elite. His intelligence on and off the field is something that Brandon has talked about quite a bit. No, this is a second commitment. He's another one though that doesn't have stars, but with more exposure to to the American colleges by playing in this country. I think Michigan. I mean, I already know for a fact that Central Michigan won't be the only ones that offer him.
Let me jump in before you get to that, guy. So what you're saying here is neither the kid from France or Germany have played high school football. They both played football and have got noticed over at camps around in France and Germany and elsewhere. But Beigel is going to play high school football next year. What about the Koumba, the French defensive end? Is he planning on coming over, or is he going to go to Paris, to Ann Arbor, to the football field?
I expect the latter to happen. There has been talk of him transferring to America. But I think if I were him, I think there would be more of a sense to publish more film and more highlights, even if he is playing overseas. So I think we should expect more of a more of a look of him. But if you're able to on Twitter, there are numerous videos of him at these mega camps and team hosted camps to show his athleticism and his awareness. So there is actual video of him. But in terms of just, an official sense, it's little defined, but I don't think him remaining in Europe is going to affect how Michigan sees him. With Elston still going to believe that this kid is going to be the next, great player with the caliber of being that great player. So I don't expect him remaining in Paris is going to negatively affect his improvement and development. No. So, but with Beigel, it can only help. I know I'm just saying one thing and another, but Beigel being in Connecticut, playing for a top tier program, preparatory academy in Connecticut will only help with his exposure. Like I said, if at this time next year, I firmly expect him to have double digit offers from these high tier programs, even if including Alabama. So,
well, that's good. Hey, if it doesn't work, it's a joke. If it doesn't work out on the football field, he can always go play for Michigan soccer. There you go. Now that's a joke. What about when I cut you off? I think you were going to talk about another German prospect, this linebacker, that there was a tweet over the weekend I think from the guy you were talking about, I cut off his name, but this German linebacker, Justin Okoronkwo, who's 6'3", ran a 4.5 with a 4.07 shuttle. Best 40 was 4.49. NFL numbers, and he's got offers from Michigan, Penn State, Bama, and Ohio State is interested. That's a pretty good offer sheet. So this might be the best of the bunch. Is Michigan zeroing in on him? Do we know if the Wolverines are the leader for this player?
I just want to say first, the fact that Alabama is showing interest is strictly on the fact that Nick Saban was one of two head coaches to personally invite Manuel inside his office to talk about his interests outside of Harbaugh. So I'm not just throwing Alabama out there, just say Alabama. I'm actually saying that Alabama is actually showing interest. But going back on Justin, kid from Germany, is very high on Michigan. From what Brandon has told me, like you said, Michigan is one of two to offer him outside of Penn State. He's also getting interest from Alabama and Ohio State too. He's one that has been able to get a great relationship with George Hilo and Elston. He's been to about 20 camps this year. And I know, Brandon Collier might be a little biased, but he said he hasn't seen one linebacker in the 24 class that's better than him. 6'3", 4.5 40, close to 200 pounds, over 200 pounds. We have reported on this before, Josh, especially that, he could be the next one in line to commit. And if that comes as early as this week, it shouldn't be a surprise given that two of his close, members of the academy committed as, in a timely manner as they did. So this won't, Beigel's commitment won't be the last one that we see from Europe in this 24 class, and Justin's going to be the next one. It's just a matter of when he decides to pull that trigger.
Okoronkwo. He sounds like a 5-star looking at those numbers. What kind of rating do you think he's going to get?
So let's, for any kid who goes to Michigan and gets, and commits, they're going to have the respect level that, since a high profile school like Michigan is going to take a chance on him, that their talents merit at least a 3-star. That Koumba has already gotten that 3-star in a couple on another recruiting service. So it's only, like I said, a matter of time before that happens for rivals. With Justin and Manuel, I think Manuel will earn maybe as high as the rivals 250, given that he'll have more exposure in this country, and more reporters like ourselves will be able to see him live. I have to look at more film of Justin outside of his camp performances to get a true rating, but the fact that Penn State and Michigan State have offered says a lot about his potential and his raw power. So no, these aren't kids who are just going to be sitting as a 0-star in December or February. So with more development and more time for growth and maturity, we're going to see at least a 3-star from all three.
All right. Before I let you go, you mentioned a little bit, just kind of in passing earlier, the barbecue. And I wanted to ask you about Jaden Davis. Is Jaden Davis, he's a quarterback in not this upcoming class, but next year, 24. Are all signs still pointing to Davis still coming in for the barbecue?
Yeah, we've heard that Davis is going to be in attendance. We've heard about that as early as after his unofficial visit in early June, when he went with Jonathan Goodwin and his son and another 4-star wide receiver. They were able to go up there together for the first time. No, I firmly expect him to be there. If he doesn't, then it'll just be, personal matters or logistics. But if he does get there in attendance, he's going to be the obvious big name regardless if he's in the 24 class or not. I still think Michigan remains in the lead. I think a lot of others would agree with me as well. Georgia
I
and
agree
Clemson.
with you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. But Georgia and Clemson still remain contenders. I know he has high interest in Clemson. Georgia's looking for their quarterback after Arch Manning decided to go to Texas. So Georgia's also in play for another quarterback that Michigan is in as well, in Julian Sayans. So that'll be an interesting battle. If Davis doesn't commit following the barbecue, which there has been some speculation, I don't want to say it will happen, but there has been some speculation. If it doesn't happen, then I don't think Michigan will still remain a leader. I think he just wants to take his time with it, which is understandable considering he's only going to enter his junior year. But if they're able to pull this off and make this barbecue trip as highly coveted as it's been in years past, a commitment from Davis would just be the perfect ending to anything. So in terms of how interested he is in Michigan, you can just look at the photo that Dennis has up with the towel of Michigan. He's played with Michigan cleats at overtime 7-on-7, and he's talked highly about Michigan to reporters in the past. So there's, I wouldn't say a comfortable lead, but I would say Michigan is in the lead for Davis at this point.
Is the barbecue this weekend or is it the following weekend? Do we actually know the date? July 31st? And if that's a Sunday, so this Saturday is the 23rd, the following Saturday, the 30th. One of those two, or are they not revealing that?
It's on the 31st. It's on the 30th and 31st.
That's the last weekend of July. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I actually, that was not an exact quote for you saying that Davis is rumored to be pulling the trigger for Michigan. You actually didn't say that.
I was about to say, please don't quote me on that because I don't want to go back to me on why he didn't commit. But
there you go. You join the line of some of these recruiting analysts that are getting involved in the recruiting process, Zach, and we don't want that to happen.
No, I'm very speculating, but the fact that there is a there's future casts on him already, and he's coming up as early as he is after going up there in June. Even if, let's say, he doesn't commit, it just shows how strongly he thinks of Michigan and how great in play they are to land in such a 5-star quarterback. And I think he's number 5 right now in the rankings for 24. So, it would just be a great addition. And if it doesn't, like I said, end up in a commitment, it would just mean more time for him to get with Weiss and Harbaugh and establish relationships in Ann Arbor.
Well, you might sound real easy, Zach, but if Michigan would have gotten Dante Moore, I would have put to rest any kind of speculation that Michigan is might not know what they're doing with the name, image, and likeness approach. And now if they get Jaden Davis, I'll come back and say Michigan knows what they're doing with their name, image, and likeness approach. And it's a pretty easy thing. Like, they would have gotten more, they would have shut everybody up. They get Davis, they're going to shut everybody up. If they don't, then, they're still going to be out there saying, do they know what they're doing? I guess we're going to find out a little bit. It doesn't mean they can't or they won't get Davis, but it could shut everybody up pretty quick as early as the end of this month.
I mean, if Jaden Davis doesn't commit, there's so many talented quarterbacks in the 24 class that they're after. So I know we've said that about the 23 classes. Well, no, we haven't said that about the 23 class because Dante Moore has been the lone option for quite some time. So a little bit different with this class, considering that we can talk about Julian Sayans, Michael Van Buren, Michael Hawkins, Isaiah Marshall to an extent. There's a lot of quarterbacks that Michigan's going after in this 24 class that all have expressed interest in Michigan. So landing Davis won't be the end of the world. Obviously, it'd be great, but there's another 5-star that's eyeing Michigan. There's another high 4-star that's eyeing Michigan from a great system in St. Francis Academy down in Baltimore. So there's a lot of cards on the table for Michigan to get a quarterback with as high of a talent as, let's say, Dante Moore in the 24 class.
Well, let's be honest. If they miss on all those guys, they can also double back and get some of these 5 stars that end up decommitting and hit the transfer portal. But you'd rather have them. You'd rather get somebody like Jaden Davis as a commit, and so then he can go out there and recruit for you, and that's the best laid plan, But there are other avenues. Just if they miss on all these guys, there are other ways to skin a cat, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could have the next Quinn Ewers wear the wing helmet. It's the possibilities are endless when it comes to recruiting. So, but yeah, you always want a homegrown talent. So, go after the high schoolers first, and worst case scenario, find that disgruntled freshman or sophomore that wants to prove the doubters wrong. So, it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting couple of years at that position for sure.
Well, you've been doing a great job with recruiting. Want to notify everyone out there that all the way up to the opener against Colorado State, September the 3rd, if you want to see all of Zach's premium information, he's writing stories. They're keeping him busy. These commitments, you can join the Maize and Blue today, and you can get access to Libby's premium content for free all the way to September's opener. Use the code UFMFree22 at checkout. Go to MichiganRivals.com. Zach, thanks for spending so much time. I know the people, the messengers, I guess, that they all appreciate it as well. Have yourself a great day and a great rest of your week.
Thank you to everybody who decided to come talk football with us, and thank you, Dennis, for having me on again. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, with that, I'll just say goodbye. Goodbye.